Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork. For today's episode, I will be sharing an excerpt from one of my books called You Got This, An Action Plan to Calm Fear, Anxiety, Worry, and Stress. With all the disturbing current events we're facing, people all around the world are experiencing overwhelmingly high levels of stress right now. I feel strongly about the need to help empower people to be resilient and able to handle their problems. You Got This is a thoroughly researched, easy-to-read, well-designed action plan to calm feelings of fear, anxiety, worry, and stress, with a wide variety of proven cognitive behavioral therapy techniques that empower people to regain a sense of peace and control in their lives. You Got This will show you how to decrease stressors, increase coping skills, increase confidence, increase resilience, and find solutions to your problems. The book is available in paperback and ebook formats on Amazon. Today's excerpt highlights one of the many tools shared in the book. These tools are part of the section of the book called Daily Action Steps. If we want to make positive changes in our lives, then learning new information simply isn't enough. Change requires action. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but there is no other way. However, it doesn't have to be hard, overwhelming, or take a lot of time. Rather than expecting someone to completely overhaul their lives overnight, these action steps are broken down into small, bite-sized pieces that are simple and short, so that they can be completed by real people who are living real lives. It's going to be okay. You got this. Today, we're going to be talking about how finding meaning and purpose in our life can help us to be able to better handle our stressors. We've discussed many different tools and techniques to become aware of any stressors that might be reduced or even eliminated by increasing awareness and altering perspective. However, there are many stressors that cannot be eliminated. The purpose of today's action step is to strengthen and empower us to be able to better deal with those problems that we cannot change. Here is an example. In 1942, a prominent Jewish psychologist living in Vienna had a serious problem that he was powerless to change. Victor Frankl was arrested and sent to a Nazi concentration camp. His pregnant wife, parents, and extended family were also arrested and sent to other camps. He immediately noticed that some prisoners gave up right away, while others continued to struggle and survive even long after they rightfully should have died, considering their malnourishment and sustained injuries. With a mind trained in psychology, he couldn't help but ask why. And he quickly understood that it had a lot to do with their attitude. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Based on his own experience and the experiences of those around him, Frankl argues that we cannot avoid suffering, but we can choose how to cope with it, find meaning in it, and move forward with renewed purpose. He wrote, "Life has a meaning to the very last breath. The possibility of realizing values by the very attitude with which we face our destined suffering exists to the very last moment. He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how." And I'd like to repeat that last line. He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how. Frankl's personal experiences gave him an opportunity to put his own theories to the ultimate test. While he was enduring the hardships of the concentration camps, Frankl's why to live was his family. He needed to survive so that he could be reunited with his wife and other members of his family. He imagined his wife as a light in the darkness. He bolstered his attitude by actively looking for small joys, like a sunrise, a bird singing, or the view of a farmhouse in the distance. When the horrors of the concentration camp finally ended in 1945, and he returned home to Vienna, he learned that his wife and all of his family members, except for one sister, were dead. His meaning was gone. But then he did something extraordinary. He found new meaning. His new meaning became sharing the importance of meaning with the rest of the world. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, is considered to be one of the top 10 most influential books of all time. So, how do we find meaning? A quote from John Gardner, an American novelist, essayist, and university professor, helps clarify how we find meaning. He said, "Meaning is not something you stumble across, like the answer to a riddle or the prize in a treasure hunt. Meaning is something you build into your life. You build it out of your own past, out of your affection and loyalties, out of your own talent and understanding, out of the things you believe in, out of the things and people you love, out of the values for which you are willing to sacrifice something. We get to choose how and where we find our meaning. We have values and priorities. We have things that bring joy and satisfaction. But sometimes we lose sight of these things. Today's assignment is to fill out a values clarification chart. The chart has 4 columns. The first lists a few common values. The next column is labeled Importance. In this column, rate how important each of these values is to you on a scale from 1 to 10. The next column is labeled Time and Resources. In this column, again using a scale from 1 to 10, rate how much time, energy, and resources you devote to this value. The last column is labeled Difference. In this column, subtract the number in the Time Resources column from the number in the Importance column. Look for those areas where there is a significant difference between the things that you value and the amount of time, energy, and resources you are devoting to those values. We can increase feelings of meaning and purpose in our lives by spending our time, energy, and resources on those things that we value the most. Our values may change during different phases of our lives and as circumstances change. Feel free to reevaluate your values by filling in a fresh chart whenever you choose. I hope you have enjoyed this excerpt from my book, You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. I feel strongly about the need to help empower people to be resilient and able to handle their problems, so I will continue sharing excerpts from the book in other episodes of Linda's Corner. In closing, I'd like to share a quote from Diane Donovan, a senior reviewer at Midwest Book Review. She said, "You Got This" provides self-help readers with techniques to reduce stress and anxiety, and in these times, it's a much-needed approach. See you next time on Linda's Corner.